joining us. I'm Linda Kincaid. Welcome to CNN Newsroom. We begin with Iran lashing out at the US and Israel as anger grows over US President Donald Trump's exit from the Iran nuclear deal. A top Iranian military commander says the move, quote, will speed up Israel's annihilation. Mr. Trump's controversial decision to move the US embassy to Jerusalem threatens to further inflame tensions. That embassy opens Monday, and the US is ramping up security at diplomatic posts right across the region. CNN's Fred Pleitgen joins us now from Tehran with the latest. Fred, this is the commander of Iranian's army on the ground there. What should we make of this threat?
Well, I think it's something that you'd expect to hear from an Iranian general, but certainly it does come at a very interesting time now, especially after you've had the U.S. pull out of the nuclear agreement, and then also you apparently had that altercation in the Golan Heights and on Syrian territory between the Iranian military and Israel, even though Iran has not acknowledged that has happened. But it does appear as though to the Iranians, those two events, as well as the opening of the embassy, the U.S. embassy in Jerusalem, seem to somehow be intertwined. Certainly, we have heard in this very important week for Iran, with the U.S. leaving the nuclear agreement, with that altercation apparently taking place, a lot of anger directed towards America and especially towards President Trump here in Tehran. Here's what we saw when we went to Friday prayers.
After Friday prayers, thousands of Iranians marched through Tehran, burning the American flag, stepping on the American flag, unleashing their anger. Many of those taking part in the demonstration waving signs ripping into President Trump.
Iran's hardliners want to send a clear message to President Trump. No matter how hard the U.S. is on Iran, they will not back down.
Protesters also lashing out at Israel after the exchange of fire between Iran and Israel in the Golan Heights and Syria, even though Tehran still has not acknowledged its forces were involved. But most of the anger was directed at President Trump after he pulled the U.S. out of the nuclear agreement.
We have come here to say to all of the people of the world and to Mr. Trump that we stand against Mr. Trump.
I want to say to American people that we are very sorry that they have elected such a president.
I hope we become so strong that nobody can threaten us and that my country will not fear anything or anyone.
At Friday prayers, the hardline prayer leader vowing a tough stance against the U.S. and Israel, calling them enemies of religion.
We are not interested in the atomic bomb, but we are increasing our missile capabilities in other fields so that Israel cannot sleep well. If she gets crazy, we will turn Tel Aviv and Haifa to dust.
While Iran's government and diplomats are busy trying to salvage the nuclear agreement, the hardliners already appear to be gearing up for confrontations to come.
And the Iranian government trying to salvage the nuclear agreement is something that's going to be also taking place, Linda, all of next week. We know that the Iranian foreign minister is going to have a trip to China, Russia, and then, of course, to the European capitals to see whether or not the nuclear agreement can somehow survive. However, the Iranians have said if it does not, then they can restart uranium enrichment on what they say is an industrial scale. Linda.
All right, Fred Pleitgen in Tehran. I've just got one more question in regards to when it could restart its nuclear program on an industrial scale, as you say, as they've said.
Yeah.
How soon technically could that actually happen if they can't salvage this deal?
Well, look, I mean, the Iranian nuclear program is one that has obviously been quite secretive. I mean, there are inspections, but certainly we don't know everything about the capabilities that the Iranians still have. We do know, Linda, after the nuclear agreement, that the Iranians did destroy a lot of their nuclear facilities, including a heavy water reactor in Arak, including a lot of other things as well. The Iranians say they can start it up pretty quickly if they wanted to. They didn't say how quickly, but they also said that they could make it bigger than it was before. Now, it's important to always point out that the Iranians say they're not after a nuclear weapon. However, they do say that even with the reduced capabilities that they have, they can get those going quickly, and they can get those going bigger than they were before, Linda.
And we heard Fred, Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel, come out there yesterday criticizing the fact that the US has withdrawn from this deal. Surely the European nations are committed to trying to salvage it. How difficult will it be without the US?
Well, I think it's going to be extremely difficult. Look, it's very hard for the Europeans to try and make all this work. And the Europeans, quite frankly, are also getting some pressure from the Iranians as well. Essentially, what the Iranians are telling the Europeans is that they want the Europeans to break with the United States on this issue. They say, look, the Iranians would like to stay in the nuclear agreement, but they want to make sure that their interests are protected, which means to the Iranians, they want European companies to be able to invest here in Iran without having to fear any retribution from the United States. The United States says any companies that are going to invest in Iran are going to get a lot of problems. So the Europeans are going to have to think some way up to try and, on the one hand, deal with the U.S., and on the other hand, try and save the nuclear agreement. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to do. It's going to be hard for them to make a strong case to the U.S. president to allow them to do that and to make sure that the U.S. does not lash out at European countries and then also at European companies as well that want to do business here. That's one of the reasons why the Iranian president is making that tour to Russia, China, and to the European countries, because he wants to find out, first of all, if the Europeans are committed to that, and then second of all, how ways can be found to move that forward. It's going to require a lot of diplomacy to do that. And if you've seen some of the statements that you were also alluding to, certainly going to be a very, very tall order, Linda.
Yeah, a major challenge. Fred Pleitgen for us in Tehran. Good to have you staying across all of it for us. Thank you.